Hello, hello. We got a new chapter of One Piece. This is 1115, 1115 Pieces of a Continent, which you could also use to describe the cover story, which is, of course, Yamato's journey around Wano. Wano is huge. I think you could call it a continent. I don't know. Actually, I don't know. What is the actual definition of a continent? Is it about size? Is it like an Earth specific thing that these are the seven continents? Does any of this matter when we have an extremely hype chapter? Um, Hiyori and Otoko are packing me a bento lunch. How cute! Some real traditional washoku going in there. It looks like some Oden. Looks like very appropriate. Look at how happy Yamato is. Really, definitely in the shonen protagonist tradition, he is hungry, hungry, hungry all the time. Okay, so shit's getting crazy. Let's actually just think about what's happening here. So One Piece, pretty atypically and pretty boldly for a weekly shonen series in like a kids magazine, has constantly been building up layer upon layer of deep fundamental mysteries as to the origins of its world and the lore of the world and all these mythological figures and how the current world emerged from these worlds previous. All of that was just cast in layers of fog and intrigue, enigmas and riddles. And now, in parallel, building up this mysterious scientist character, Dr. Vegapunk, who has been mentioned and referred to for hundreds of chapters before he actually appeared as our beloved, doddering, Einstein-esque figure, is now sending a message to the world in which he reveals as many of these fundamental truths and secrets and answers to these mysteries as he has access to, not only answering a bunch of questions that One Piece readers have literally had for like over a decade, but introducing new things that we didn't even think to ask about. This is the kind of insane shit you get to do when you are committed to telling a story over like 30 years. It's pretty amazing. I'm pretty excited. I don't know if there's much else to say. Let's just plunge in and learn. All right, we're going from Wano on the cover page to Wano in the story. They're learning about the exciting technology of the Denden Mushi. Probably everything in the broadcast is less exciting than just seeing the Denden Mushi and seeing how it works. Joy Boy was a pirate. He sounds just like Luffy. Well, yeah. Oh, yeah, fat kid. Oh, no. Yeah, I was like, because I think there was a time where you saw Kid, like, Eustace Kid, and he was fat. Like Luffy, you know? He's fat in one scene when he eats a bunch of meat. But no. He's at, like, the bottom of the frickin' sea. He got shanksed. This is somebody we haven't seen in so long, and I think it's forgivable if you forgot about him. It's the Malo Black, the fake Luffy. He's still... There's no way that I'm weaker than Joy Ball. Oh, that's funny. I like that they're not an Impel Down. It would make no sense for them to be an Impel Down. They're just in some random Navy base in the brig. I've only read from a handful of poneglyphs, but what I found there was the record of a breathtakingly vast war. Joy Boy's enemy was the world government of the present day. Is that us? Are we the baddies? The first pirate. I am a little disappointed that we hear this little, like, this is Oda being maximum teaser, right? He could have just written this whole speech as like a paragraph of text. Obviously, he would never do that. But because we're seeing it in little blips and blurts around the world, we clearly are missing some stuff. Because we see here in Wano, they're hearing the start of the sentence, but as for why he was called a pirate, we don't get to find out. I don't know, where did that term come from? Obviously, we have an etymology in English and in Japanese, But why and how did some term emerge in the One Piece world to describe Joy Boy and people like him? More accurately, it was the precursor to the world government, a provisional army put together by 20 kingdoms known as the Alliance. Alright, chaos is still unfolding all over Egghead. The boar Gorosei chewing up the ground itself, spewing fire at Luffy and the giant captains. I like that Luffy and the giant captains are hanging out as like a trio. Maybe the three strongest entities on this entire island right now. I don't know. This is the beauty of One Piece, right? All shonen series, all battle shonen series will eventually, in some way, kind of like devolve and break down into power scaling, right? Into power scaling being this kind of undercurrent of the series that manifests itself and is relevant in all these battles and stuff, right? I think One Piece embraces that, but just keeps setting up localized situations where the rules of the game are a little different and there's so many unknown factors and so much chaos that all of these power scaling questions kind of are reborn anew. Like right now they're just trying to flee and escape. So we don't know. If the three of them 180'd and just fought this Gorosei, would they win? I don't know. The Gorosei has this broken ass regeneration mechanic, so I don't know. This gigantic robot warrior, how strong is it? We don't know. It sounds pretty dang strong. How strong are the giant pirate captains exactly? We've never known. It's always been, you know, a possibility that they're actually like the strongest entities we've ever seen in the world of One Piece, or way up there at least. We just don't know. And I think that's hype. It keeps the hype of power scaling going without it being kind of just a binary of either foregone conclusion or something that feels like an ass pull, you know? Instead, it's just this like constantly evolving, mutating thing. Anyways. I just think the giant pirate captains are so cool. You might say they had no other choice. So robust was Joy Boy's faction. Without knowing the spark that caused the war, I won't say who was right or wrong. I'll simply state that two competing ideologies came head to head. As I mentioned earlier, for its time 900 years ago, the country of Joy Boy's birth. Oh, and we see Zoe. Is Zoe the country of Joy Boy's birth, perhaps? That's why they're like bros? Is the unforgivable sin that Zoe committed, is that it like survived? Or something? Like it feels guilt that Joy Boy and his original comrades were like wiped from memory, but it persists living. Oh, it was a startlingly advanced civilization. But they are showing Zoe at this moment. I'm not entirely convinced I'm wrong. And the weapons that were used over the course of this 100-year conflict appear to be impossible to recreate with the latest of modern science. Alright, we see the gang. There's Carrot, my girl, the Musketeers. Whoa! Frickin' Foxy. Foxy with his no flag sailing about. We're seeing like everybody. And they're like dying. They're in such shambles. That's funny. You know, I like the Foxy arc. Maybe that's my hottest One Piece take. I think it was very well positioned as a way to kind of like, you know, kind of reshift some emotional gears after Ines Lobby. And I just think it's a lot of fun. And it has some pretty awesome moments. And then you have to include in that arc the Aokiji fight, which I think is just one of the best moments of that era of One Piece. Anyways, and therein lies the problem. Lower the barrier and run for safety. Isn't much point in the barrier anymore. We can't stop these guys from getting past it. Done all I can to help the Straw Hats make their escape. They can take it from here. Okay. Everybody's coming together. Poor Kaku. Nobody's even thinking about Kaku. Can someone save him, please? Because he's weirdly one of my favorite characters, and I'd like to see him appear in the future and not just get, like, nuked or whatever's gonna happen. More ships are gathering around the northern coast, which of course is their escape route. They still need everyone to converge back at the Sunny. Don't land on water, only to get bombarded to bits. You can see the giant pirates there valiantly fighting off marine battleships. It shows you just how freaking huge their Viking-esque giant pirate ship is. I think it's so freaking cool. Okay. Stussy's still helping out. Don't know what to do. Without Stella around anymore, who do I live for? Stussy, come on. I don't know. Maybe Kaku is kind of like... Because, obviously, Kaku and Lucci are pissed off at Stussy because Stussy turned out to be, like, a triple agent. And they got out-agented, which must not feel good for a secret society. But I think he does empathize with her in that she also was just living for the mission. And these guys as well lived entirely false lives for decades in order to fulfill their mission. And when their mission was like a catastrophic failure, yeah, it probably frickin' sucks. And here too, you know, her whole purpose was devoted to helping Vegapunk and doing all of these crazy undercover missions and stuff. It's like, yeah, wow, that must suck. Okay, they're fighting this Gorosei. He seems absurdly strong. Now this is very interesting. The bio response detected. I don't know what the heck. Is he thinking that? Is he an android or something? Whoa. Okay, so we know that way in the past, when all of this shit was going down, there was like massively more sophisticated technology than we have today, right? So, is it actually that crazy to suggest the Gorosei are like immortal androids? It's a little crazy. But what is this bioresponse detected? Who's thinking that? But yeah, he's trying to cut Bonnie. Bioresponse detected. What does that mean? Yeah, that's a strong sword. Bonnie childifies again. The Void Century came to a close with the defeat of Joy Boy. Here we see the ancient robot and Zoe, two remnants of that era. Okay, he runs off, I think, dissatisfied with St. Mars's attempts to shut down Vegapunk's transmission. Obnoxious bioresponse. Yeah, it's definitely this Gorosei, the Gandhi-looking one, is thinking these things, or they're triggering in his brain or something. Or maybe it's that his sword is some sort of, like, ancient super weapon that can, like, seek out specific bio patterns or something. So he slices... This is pretty sick nasty. This is something I think is, like, super clutch in a lot of the best One Piece arcs. Is that at a really pivotal moment when the true chaos is unfolding of all the big climactic battles, there suddenly is a huge shift to the scenery. And it's like everything you kind of thought about what was happening is like refreshed and recontextualized and flipped on its head, sometimes quite literally, by just the insane physicality change. And this is clearly what we're seeing here. And then also, of course, the parallels of saying this is leaving vast permanent scars of war across the face of the world. Here's another huge scar cut into the geography of the island. Now, notably, it doesn't show the transmission like cutting out here, at least. Maybe on the next page. But I'm starting to think that Vegapunk does not have this thing transmitting from Egghead at all. Because this is not... Egghead is not Vegapunk's only scientific base, right? It could be coming from Baltimore. It could be coming from some random-ass ship somewhere. It could be coming from, computers he embedded back in the shared scientific libraries of Caesar Clown and Judge Vinsmoke and stuff, right? Like, I don't think this is going to stop it. I would be sad if this stopped it, even though it's such a freaking badass attack. And I feel like this is bad, right? Isn't this destroying a bunch of the stuff that they were, like, deliberately trying to preserve? Like the Vegapunk archives? The Big Brain? Or the Mother Flame? Is he at all confident that he's going to be able to not destroy those things? And if they did destroy the Mother Flame, is that going to, like, blow up the entire island? This is just crazy, though. And again, we have to acknowledge the existence of power scaling questions, and to acknowledge that Oda is usually pretty deliberate about what he shows the character is capable of doing. Has Zoro ever made a slash this impressive? I don't know. It's kind of cool the way it looks visually, too, because there's no, like, whoosh or anything like that. It's, like, somehow more subtle and scarier than that. We've seen Hawkeye, of course, do some pretty freaking impressive things. Slashing, gigantic icebergs cleanly in two from a long distance. But again, it was like, you could see the velocity of it, and you could see the flying slash of it. So this is pretty interesting. This seems to be operating on, like, another kind of level. Another power is being exerted here. Oh, and then the Seraphim all react. It's kind of interesting, the Seraphim all react. I'm not sure why we're seeing that here. Is it because they were trapped and now all of them... Oh yeah, we see Seraphim, Boa Hancock in a little bubble here, all falling out of the bottom of the Labo phase. Yeah, transmission continues. Let's go. The world is made up of a series of islands. Sailing between them is difficult, and many people never experience anything but the culture at their home. Everybody knows the sea is dangerous. But this shared understanding of the world does not necessarily apply to the world of 1,000 years ago. Wow, we even see Zoro's sensei way back on Zoro's island. When was the last time we saw that guy? His kids dutifully training with bamboo swords. Because a cataclysm occurred during the Void Century, causing the world to sink once before, we are currently living on the pieces of a continent that existed long ago. Oh, that's so cool. The world of a millennium ago now slumbers unseen at the bottom of the sea. That's so beast. I mean, it's basically just Wind Waker. It really is just Wind Waker. But Wind Waker is fucking awesome, and it has, I think, the coolest lore in any Zelda game, and I don't even know if that's a hot take. And two, it's probably pretty plausible that Oda actually came up with this idea before the Wind Waker was released, right? One Piece has been running since 1997. If he had this idea at all within the first 6 years, and stuff like the Void Century and the nature of the world and stuff were being referenced, within the first 6 years of One Piece. Pretty sure. Yeah, because it comes up during, like, Alabasta and stuff. Wow. And the answer was Wind Waker. And I love it. That's so cool. Oh, that's so cool. And just, like, this panel here. This is so awesome. The ancient slumbering world. The Sea King looking in. This, like, raises so many questions, right? Like, what's the deal with fishmen? What were they doing 1,000 years ago? What about the Sea Kings as well? And the idea of Shirahoshi being an ancient weapon that controls them. How ancient is ancient? When they say it's all part of one continent, does that imply that there, like, was no ocean either? Like, it's just one big continent that, like, stretched around the whole globe? I don't know. And then, of course, we have to start thinking about the cosmology of One Piece. When did this happen in relation to the timeline with stuff like the Lunarians and stuff? When did they come and go? And even just like Sky Islands and stuff. You know? They were there and they watched the world flood. How did this happen, by the way? How do you flood the entire world? How do you sink a gigantic continent? Probably some sort of ancient weapon that slumbers under the earth, like Pluton. This is pretty crazy. This is cooking with some frickin' gas right here. I mean, all will be revealed in due time, but I think we can kind of like reread all of the history of One Piece with this information in mind and come to some interesting conclusions, which obviously is the outside of the scope of this video. And then it also kind of speaks to like, okay, so here's another kind of One Piece endgame theory. Remember the chapter Luffy's Dream, where he talks about his dream for when he becomes the King of Pirates, and everybody is like both shocked but then amused and kind of just go like, wow, all right, if you say so. The most compelling theory for what he suggests to me is that he wants to bring all the peoples of the earth together on to have one big party, right? Which would kind of suggest, oh, maybe the end game is that the oceans will drain back down and the world will become land connected again, and all of the peoples of the world can come together, which would be kind of neat and beautiful. This also, I think, is why Joy Boy was called the first pirate, because he was the first person to, in this post-waterlogged world, start to navigate between islands and still build up this resistance to the world government that, like, did this, I guess? I don't know. That would mean that he was some sort of revolutionary figure. They had a huge war, the cataclysm happened, and then he became a pirate, which doesn't seem quite right, because I assume he, like, died heroically in the war. But I don't know. Like, that's just... At any rate, because it's like, what is a pirate if it's all on land? At any rate, it's like, that would be kind of cathartic, like restoring the old world, restoring this idea of a true unity between peoples and free travel. And, you know, this chapter reminded us that the world of One Piece is one of extreme kind of like isolation, where most people don't have a good sense of what is happening in the greater world. And, you know, most of the run of the series, we've been on the Grand Line, which is full of freaks. But most people in their home ocean, you know, East Blueians aren't freaking going anywhere. So it's kind of like, that is just this kind of undercurrent of injustice and missed opportunity and unidealness in the world of One Piece that would be rectified. At the same time, though, it would be, like, weird, right? Because One Piece is this grand adventure of sailing, of piracy. And to have the conclusion be like, well, that's over now. Like, nobody needs to do that anymore. Doesn't seem quite right either. And it doesn't really feel... I mean, Luffy is always talking about freedom. You would have more freedom if you could just move normally around the world. See, this was my other theory. I thought Luffy's dream might be... everyone can breathe underwater. and that he imagined freedom as people just being able to go from island to island trivially and live in the water and stuff like that. You know, all hearkening back to not being able to swim and how devastated he was about that when he was a kid. I don't know. We gotta move on. We still got like 6 straight pages. Some more crazy stuff can pop out. One can assume that in the past there was a number of continents we know nothing about. Okay. Nojiko just doesn't care. If the world were the same as it was in the past, then erasing 100 years of history would simply be unthinkable and impossible. The rise in the sea level of that century was 200 meters. Yeah. So yeah, this makes sense. Like, the entire idea of the poneglyphs and Ohara and stuff... being able to censor knowledge to that scale and forbid research and have only like a handful of people that can even read the poneglyphs, that only makes sense in this like very isolated everybody dotted around on individual isolated islands approach. So gigantic battleships are only 60 meters long. No wonder the whole world vanished. I get distracted by this story. Cypher Pole and Seraphim came falling down to ground level. We gotta rescue them. Okay, some people still in disbelief. Fine, but he predicted the earthquake, dummies. Back in Cherry Blossom Kingdom. Oh, yeah. She's still kicking. She's still curious. That mountain over there is about 200 meters tall. Imagine the sea level rising that high. Oh, there's our Baroque Works alumni. Living their best lives. Very good, very good. So why the sea level rose so much during that century? Natural to assume the work of a sudden natural disaster. Can state for a fact that this was a man-made disaster. Morgan's is freaking out too much. Vivi has to muzzle him. Initial disaster would have spanned several centuries and inflicted slow but continual damage upon the world. But by any measurement, climatology, geology, environmental, and atmosphere science, which, by the way, it reminds me of Weatheria, the place that Nami got sent to by Kuma. What were they doing? How long has that place been up there? How long have those weird weather wizards been watching and calculating, right? It feels like Vegapunk must be drawing upon all these sorts of resources. This dramatic shift could not have happened within a single century, so the cause is something else. And when I detected the rise in worldwide sea levels the other day, I had my answer. I knew the cause and confirmed its existence. The ancient weapons that sank the world into the sea 800 years ago still exist today and await the moment that they stir once again. In other words, the vast war that arose during the Void Century never came to an end. And here we see Imu freaking out. Grrr. Go, 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 go. And that's it. That's what we got for this week. Whew! Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. On the one hand, it's like, there's nothing too out of left field, right? Like, it's not aliens. I'm sure most people thought, okay, the Void Century was the world government did something horrific and censored it. And we knew they eliminated some ancient kingdom. We've known that for, like, basically just this arc, but that's something we've all become, like, comfortable with. There was this ancient advanced kingdom, and the world government annihilated it and then covered up all evidence of it. And now this is just kind of the same with this additional spin that the world used to kind of look like our world with large land masses, and then it flooded and became these series of dotted little islands everywhere. This sure doesn't explain what the hell the red line is. Now that we kind of know the world used to be, like, normal, the red line becomes all the more of an anomaly and makes me wonder if they somehow created that as a final fortress of their choosing when the rest of the world floods out and all the islands disappear beneath the sea. That sounds very plausible. And it's another, like, amazing thing that they're going to be able to do and kind of speaks to their power and stuff. At any rate, all of that is, like, not really that surprising. And I think this is, like, in a great sweet spot where it's not like, oh, it was aliens or oh, there was a time traveler or, like, something absurd like that. It's all within expectations, but what gets really brought out, I think, is, like, the romance of it, right? Like, just the idea of these ancient civilizations slumbering on the seafloor is so compelling. And the idea of this dramatic change in the entire geography of the entire world orchestrated by these shadowy, powerful figures is so compelling and so gripping, right? And just kind of thinking about, so then what is the scope that we're dealing with here? What are our heroes going to be able to have to be able to overcome? Oh, well, they're going to have to go against, like, forces that can shape nature. It really hits a sweet spot where, you know, it really makes the future of the story seem so compelling, but not just kind of full of bullshit 90-degree swerves, right? Like, we kind of know how it's going to play out. world government has access to these super weapons, but our ragtag group of heroes from all different walks of life, led by Joy Boy, is going to stand up to them once again, and this time, almost certainly, emerge victorious. And that's like that's what we're getting over the next few years. That's the end of One Piece. And that's kind of what we always expected, but it's like, what are they going to do? Are they going to unflood the Earth? I don't think so. How would you even do that? All right. Let's look forward to next week. Crazy, crazy stuff. Bye-bye for now.